Hello, James. How are you today?
Very good indeed, Georgia. It's fabulous being here with you. It's a real pleasure and a privilege. So thank you for inviting me to come and talk to you. I'm really pleased to be able to do that. It's really
Well,
good.
that's wonderful to hear. Really appreciate you taking the time out because, from what I can gather, your schedule is pretty busy at the moment.
Lots of things on.
There are,
It's
there are.
a good thing.
It is, absolutely. We can't wait to hear all about it. And so, just for before we kick off, and for people reading or listening, watching this, um, you are your full name, James Sale, and you have fingers in many pies, but your current project is Motivational Maps, which is your business and the title of your book. And so I would love it if you wouldn't mind kicking off by just giving us a brief overview of Motivational Maps, both the organisation and the book, if you so wish.
Okay, it was easy to get this, but just one small point. It's actually, the book's called Mapping Motivation.
Sorry, Mapping Motivation.
Yeah, but the business is called Motivational Maps Limited, and the product is called Motivational Maps. So, in essence, we have been in business for 11 years. We started in 2006, and Motivational Maps are an online diagnostic tool. Technically, they're called a self-perception inventory, but basically, they're not a psychometric. But if you like to think about personality tests, they are like a personality test. Only the difference is this tells you about what motivates you. So we've developed a language to describe this and a metric to measure it. We have over 300 licensees in 14 countries. This tool is now in 7 different languages around the world, and so it's growing. So typically companies use this, SMEs, corporates, public sector companies use this tool in order to find out what is motivating their employees. And because motivation is very closely correlated with performance levels, at the end of the day, the benefit of this is it's all about performance, productivity, and ultimately, therefore, for a company that's in business, profitability. If the strategy is correct, clearly, you can have a whole lot of highly performing people, but with the wrong strategy for you'd still go bust. But with that proviso, we can increase performance and productivity, and that is what the tool is designed to do.
That's absolutely fantastic and very original as well, because there are a lot of things out there in terms of that simply focus on productivity, various apps, but homing in on motivation in particular is something that from what I can gather, isn't widely available. So, what inspired you to create a product around this?
Well, it's one of those strange things, isn't it? This is the whole thing. Peter Drucker, the world's he's dead now, of course, but he was the world's greatest management consultant. Said there were only 2 things that made money for a business, and everything else was a cost. One is obvious. He said it was marketing, in which I would include sales. So marketing and sales make money for a business, and that's obvious. But the second thing is the really interesting. He said innovation. So innovation, all of us have to, with our products and services, we have to find new ways, faster ways, cheaper ways, better ways of doing and delivering services and solutions to our clients and customers. I was a trainer and coach for 10 years before I developed Motivational Maps. I was in business for 10 years, and speaking immodestly, I suppose, I think I was really good at coaching. I was really good at training, and I'd been on loads and loads of courses. I'd done loads of literature that I'd gone through, and I found that everyone was talking about motivation, but I realised there was no way really of measuring it and having a language to describe it. So there was this kind of basic language of push away and towards motivation. There was a Maslow hierarchy. There were various models, but none of them were exactly about motivation. But motivation was ubiquitous. Everybody in every walk of life was experiencing or not experiencing motivation. And so I decided to innovate around this whole missing dimension of motivation and create this tool. And it's been a labour of love. And it's taken a long time because it started off just as a written piece of paper where people were scribbling down answers to it. It then became online, a 4-page report, a 10-page report, a 15-page report. Then there was a team map. Then there was an organisational map. Then we developed a youth map for use in schools. We've got a youth wing that goes into schools for 15-year-olds to do a youth map so that parents know how to motivate their kids when they do homework. So it's become 4 different maps, and the whole thing's been building out, and more and more people have come on board over the period of time. So I genuinely do think there is no other tool or product like it, although various people claim to have a tool that measures motivation. None of it measures it in the direct way and straightforward way that we do. It's a unique tool.
It absolutely sounds that way. It's incredible. And I mean, obviously, I imagine this strikes a chord with a lot of entrepreneurs who might be watching this or reading this, because actually when people have that passion and they have that idea that they just know if they can find a way to conceive it and make it a reality and get it into the hands of as many people that need it as possible and solve those issues for people, then it's a winning business. But ultimately what drives people, I think, more than money and business success is actually impact, and that certainly sounds like that's true for you.
Yes, I think you have to do something you believe in, something you really feel is really going to make a difference, and you actually like yourself as a product or service, and you'd use it yourself. So, I mean, obviously there are commodities of people, and there are people who enjoy commodities, but for me it has to be something unique and special, and this is what this feels like. I've really followed in a way a dream, so there's a dream here, and that's the other thing, nobody starts out an expert. You know, people think, oh, if I had the expertise, then I could do this, but I didn't start off as an expert like this. What has to happen is these small steps you take at the beginning, 1 step, 2 step, and you just build, and then the whole thing becomes this huge field. You suddenly realise you've mastered this whole field of motivation, and you've become effectively a world expert without even trying to be one. And it's because you love the topic rather than because you're doing exams for it. You're trying to get a PhD or an MBA. You've just simply got entranced by this, and you just dug down, and suddenly all this stuff materializes.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And so actually, talking to you now, I was going to ask what inspired you to write your book, but it's so glaringly obvious. It's a bit of a redundant question.
Well, it's not a redundant question, because actually there are. I mean, I'll give you 3 primary reasons why I've written this book. So clearly, we've been going for 10 years. We are a sort of mom and pop business in reality. We're not a corporate. We are a kind of small, my wife and I, my wife's the MD of the company, and we have a couple of the small shareholders, but basically it's a small business. We don't have endless resources. And so it's been an organic growth. The whole thing's grown organically. And you reach a point when you think, I need more than just the organic. I need other things. So writing a book, to me, had 3 key things it did for me that was so powerful, and I'll talk about the results of this 6 months on in a minute if you like, but 3 things. One would be your position in the market. It was very, very important, because people say, well, James who? Motivational Maps what? Who are these people? And although the product is ISO'd, it's been ISO'd to an international standard, so what? What we needed was something whereby, people could think, oh, do you know what? There's a book out. And this book provides the evidence and the proof that this is a valid system, a valid way of going about, measuring motivation. It's got all the footnotes, it's got all the details, and it's got all the practical things you can do as well that actually demonstrate the intellectual property that this product contains. So our position in the market, or if you want to put it another way, my USP. The USP of the book, I wanted to get out to as wide an audience as possible through an international publisher, or through any kind of publication, basically, because now anybody can be international, because obviously, all books have got the internet, they've got all the social media that can actually get it out there, and this gives a kind of your position in the marketplace, you as an expert, you as a guru, you're number one in your field. This is what this book can do for you if you get a book out. So getting a book out in that sense is absolutely fabulous. The second thing it does is it strengthens your tribe. You probably know Seth Godin's book called Tribes. Yeah. And one of the key things any business has got in these sense, I think, does is they try to create tribes of people who are following you. Now, we've got 300 plus licensees of our product, but we've got loads of other businesses that use the product. Maybe 400 businesses use the product around the world. Some are huge businesses, like the John Lewis Partnership or Ordnance Survey. Some are very small SMEs. But these people, follow what you do. So, you need to, a book coming out of this enables your tribe to have real confidence in what you're talking about, what you're saying, and they can refer to it, and they can refer other people to it. Oh, have you seen the book? Have you seen that article in the book? Have you seen that chapter? So this is really, really important. And I think there's a third reason for anyone who's interested in innovation, serious, deep innovation, why they should write a book, and that is, writing a book is also not just about writing what you already know, it's also about the discovery of ideas. You don't know what you know until you come to write a book.
So you mean discover your own ideas?
You discover your own ideas by the mere act of writing. So in fact, you don't actually know what you're going to write necessarily in advance. You have an idea, you have a plan, you structure the book, but then when you come to write it, you come up against roadblocks where you discover, and I'll give you a great example from my own book, Mapping Motivation, which was absolutely astonished me. Something I discovered about my business, which I did not know before I wrote the book. After 10 years of running with my wife, Motivational Maps, I actually discovered what the real mission of the company was, which I didn't know before I wrote the book. I thought before I wrote the book, the mission was something to do with, spreading motivation around the world. It's not. What I realized when I came to the concluding chapter was, well, what was the effect? What was the effect that Motivational Maps were having on the companies it was working with, the businesses we were working with? I realized the effect was, our mission was to transform the way management worked throughout the world from a top-down to a bottom-up approach. That the maps only ever worked with companies who were able to actually bottom-up it rather than to top-down it. And this was excellent. So the mission wasn't really about motivation. The mission, the product, was enabling us to affect management, not just motivation. It was a management tool as opposed to just a motivation tool. So my mission statement changed as a direct result of writing the book, and I hadn't realised it till I came to write it, and the ideas on the page. Because of course, when you put things on a page, you see them and you can handle them and you can manipulate them. When they're in your head, they're all swimming around, going round and round and round. They don't necessarily connect with each other. When you've got them on the page and you write them out, then you begin to see what the real implications of what you're thinking are, and that leads to more implications.
Thank you so much for explaining that, because I think and I certainly, as a writer and as somebody who writes and edits and publishes business books for entrepreneurs, when we're talking about it in conversation, phrases like books connect people, they connect ideas to people, and all this kind of thing. But I think for you to have explained it in that way really makes that statement real. The idea that you discover your own ideas as you write, and as a result, you're profoundly and fundamentally improving your business.
Yes, you improve your business as a result of writing the book. Never mind the publicity, the PR, and all the other things it does for you. You actually improve the quality of your business, because when you write it, it's going to a public audience. You have to get that kind of right. I don't mean that in a terrifying way, but you struggle to express what you really want to say, and as you make that struggle, suddenly new things connect in your mind. A light bulb goes off on all sorts of things. But that's just one example. But I mean, it's a pretty important example. To discover my own mission after 10 years, thinking I already knew what it was, and then to write the damn book and find out I had a different mission, that was a bit of a shock to my system.
I can't even imagine. It's incredible. But I mean, it's the power of that is the power of language and the power of books, isn't it? And that's why they're the one educational tool and sort of a gift and communication tool that's existed since the beginning of time, because they are that powerful.
I would say on that, perhaps people look at me and look at my face, look at you and they think how young you are, and they look at me and think how old he is. I may be old, but you see, I do not believe books will ever go out of fashion. They'll never go.
No.
I love social media. I use it extensively. I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook, and I love all that stuff. But there's something about the authority of a book, a physical book, that goes beyond simply doing just even e-books. And e-books are good, but to get a physical book out as well, that is the creme de la creme. That's a key defining moment. You are an author.
You can't beat it, can you?
Can't beat it, no. And to feel it in your hands. Incidentally, I just brought it along just in case.
Oh, go on. Do show us.
There's the book, Mapping Motivation.
Fantastic.
My wife did the cover for that book.
Did she?
Fabulous cover.
She's very talented. That's brilliant.
Very talented.
Thank you for showing us.
So when you hold that in your hand, you feel it, and that really, I guess, I don't know what your next question is, but of course it leads on to the results of writing a book and what a book can do for you, and that pleasure I've just had in touching the book myself and thinking about it all. Imagine the pleasure you can have when you actually give that or pass that on to either an existing client or a prospect, and the effect it has. I mean, so we have we don't do it like confetti. We don't give our books out. They're expensive books. They're not cheap to buy on Amazon, but they won't give that like. But we do to selected people. We select very carefully who we are going to give a book to, and the effect of that. Well, that's only been out 6 months, but the effect of that has already had profound implications for me and my business. There are doors opening for my business, which are very, very powerful. One with a couple of corporates, I can't mention names here obviously, but one thing I can mention, which is very, very specific. I mean, I am going to be appearing at the Dominion Theatre in London on the 8th of September as one of the 3 top speakers at a big leadership event. I am convinced that I was invited to join the party because of the book. This all happened post the book and the book launch and what happened. And that's a fabulous thing that may not have happened for me without it. And there'll be 100 plus people there, and it'll be in the middle of London, in the West End of London, and it'll be really prestigious, and there'll be a lot of things happening. And so that'll open up a series of things. So the book can do some tremendous things for your business in terms of market penetration, reaching places that you can't reach just by being Joe Blogs or Joanna Blogs yourself. The book just gives you an authority. By the way, the book gives you an authority because, of course, the word author and authority come from the same etymological root.
That's a good point.
To be an authority is to be an author.
Very good point.
So it's really, really important you become an author to become an authority. So it's just absolutely, as soon as you've written a book, you become an authority. And that's a very, very important thing to be in your business, whatever your business is to be the authority, the go-to person who's the authority, in my case, on motivation. I am the go-to person to go to on that because I know more about it than, what should I say, than 99.99% of other people.
Majority, absolutely.
I know more than everybody, but a lot of people because of this book and this authority that I have.
Absolutely. And I just want to, in a sec, just go on to this bit about how you've been using your book and what's been happening after writing and publishing the actual book. But just before we do that, I think your passion and your enthusiasm is like coming right out of Skype, and it's tangible. And I can also imagine there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there who feel the very same way about their own product and service, and they just want to be that authority on it. They want to see all those results that you're describing, but there's some form of procrastination going on in the background. Maybe they are feeling a little underconfident in their idea. Maybe they feel that, oh, what if nobody reads it, or I don't really have the budget for that, or but we all know, obviously they will know that these are sort of excuses.
Yes.
And so what would you say to people, what do you say when you meet people who are successful, but they're just not taking that next step? And how important is having a book?
Well, I think if we're talking about you running your own business, your own entrepreneurial business, so you're not in Corporatesville, and you're not just self-employed as a plumber or something. You're running a proper business which generates cash for you that depends upon some sort of innovation of product or service. Then I would say it's arguably one of those single powerful things you could do, I think, in terms of marketing your business, having a book. And I think the procrastination reasons don't add up. The only one that actually has got any legs at all, in my opinion, is that actually, I can't really write. I just can't write. But even that doesn't add up, because there are loads of people who can't write. They get ghostwriters, they get copywriters, they get people to help them write it. They have the ideas, and these people can actually do it. And I know several people who've done precisely that, and they've produced stonkingly great books as a result of it. They've got the ideas. So obviously the terms and conditions, you get a copywriter to work with you on this. Not everyone can. I fully accept that. Just as I couldn't paint a picture. I can't paint a picture. I might have ideas for a picture, but I'd need my wife to come along and to realise it for me. I couldn't do the painting. There are some people, but I genuinely think, there isn't a better way, really, of getting authority, of getting credibility, and of getting out there than having a great book that you produce. And it's worth spending money on it. It's worth actually having a quality book. The book that I've just showed up to you is actually, I'm not saying this is absolutely necessary, but it's a hardback book. Hardbacks are better than paperbacks. Paperbacks are better than kind of what I'd call, those kind of thin booklety things, which, very, 17 ideas in it. That's it's a good start, 17 ideas, but I think, a good substantial book is what you want. Now, here's the challenge. Get an index in the back of the book. If you have an index in the back of the book, then you have got a serious book because it's sourced. Here's a little known fact about Motivational Maps, which I'll share with you.
Go for it.
Up until I wrote the book, I would regularly, from my 300 plus licensees, get the question, who has validated this product?
Interesting.
We have a series of answers to that validation question. We've got about 5 different answers. And we have a face validity test. We have this, we have the ISO, we have this, we have that. Answers right. Since the book's come out, I've had no inquiries at all about what's the validity of the product.
Wow.
Because in fact it's completely circular, of course. The book validates the product validates the book. So what's validating either of those two things? But the fact of the matter is, once you've got the book out and it's sourced and there's an index at the back and you're actually referring to all the text on which you rely to create the product, then it's self-evident that the thing is valid. So you actually create a form of validation for yourself by producing this book.
Sorry.
Yeah, good. So that's another reason for doing it.
Yeah, no, and I can absolutely second that point. As someone who, so I actually take the actual writing off people's hands. Those people that you just described that go, I don't have the time or the inclination, or I can't write. A lot of people actually, especially in entrepreneurship, tend to have short attention spans. Some have other issues, dyslexia, for example, or that kind of thing that really makes sitting down to write a book completely tedious, and they just have much chance it's never going to happen. And so one of the things that I offer is to actually take the writing off their hands altogether, if that's how they feel about it. And one of the questions that I sometimes get is, but then will it still be me? And will it still be valid? And will it still put across the message that I wanted to put across? And just touching on what you've just said, it is always them, because actually I'm an expert in what I do. I'm an expert in writing the books, but I can't be an expert in mapping motivation, and I couldn't be an expert in somebody else's business, right? So I can only give life to their ideas, their words, their thoughts, and their feelings. Yes. So I think no matter how it gets into the book, that's irrelevant, even if you use a writer.
Exactly so, and I would totally support that. So the key question for them, and I'm saying this, you've been kind enough to interview me, but you won't mind me saying this, but the key question for them is getting the right person to ghostwrite the book for you. Yeah. Because you need somebody that is empathic, who is understanding, who's going to reflect the true nature of your ideas. But equally, you as the writer or as the originator of the ideas got to actually commit to this. You've got to commit to it actually financially, you've got to commit to it emotionally, you've got to commit to it the time to it. Because one of the problems with entrepreneurs is they've never got enough time. So that, I've known a case quite recently of somebody who was going to do this, not with me, but with somebody else I knew, because I'm in this field, so you get to know people doing this kind of thing. But basically, want to get a copywriter, but they've never had time to brief the copywriter on what it was they wanted, because they're always busy with the client, and there's always the client, and they have this excuse that because I'm with a client, that justifies paying no attention to anything else, including my wife, my kid, my dogs, my cat, my husband. I'm with a client, and that trumps everything. That's the ace of spades. So you've got to get away from that mindset and realise that this is longer term thinking. A book is longer term thinking. My book has probably got, so we talk about this in terms of investment. My book has probably got a shelf life of a minimum, because it's a quality book, of 20 years.
Amazing.
The 20-year shelf life. Imagine that. Imagine you've got an idea for a business, or you're doing something in your business. You'll be number one in that field, and you get a book out there, and it's going to sell for another 20 years. And this, by the way, is selling fabulously well. My book. We've sold. It's £45 a copy. So that's quite expensive. We've sold over 600 copies in 6 months, and I've already had offers to write a shed load more books. So
that's right.
This one book leads to another book, and so the whole thing starts. So
self-fulfilling cycle.
In every book there's a code. So we've had inquiries for the map as a result of the sales of the book. So sales are going up because of more requests for more books, and blah de blah de blah. So the whole thing becomes a virtuous cycle, but it's an investment of time. Here's the thing: my book, just to put it in perspective for your people. Now, it's how many pages is it? It's about 250 pages, I think. I'll just double check that.
Sorry. And it's on silent as well.
Okay, don't worry. It's over 200 pages long, just over 200 pages long. It took me 3 months to write it. 3 months where I was spending about 2 hours, 5 days a week doing it. So that's quite an investment of time. Now, if you've got somebody to ghostwrite it, it'd be a lot less. Because actually what you'd be doing is you'd be saying to them, and that's quite a big book, and I'm not recommending everyone writes a book of that length. You could get away with a quarter of that length maybe, and it'd be a lot less time. But I mean, it might be a month of your time you're going to take up, and you're going to brief somebody, you're going to give them information, you're going to give them details, you're going to give them, images, diagrams, spreadsheets, charts, whatever you need to give. You're going to give them all this stuff, right? And they're going to go away and do it. It might take a month of your time, but imagine it's going to sell for 10 more years, 20 more years. and it's going to be doing the rounds, and people are going to see your name. It's going to, people are going to review your book. So all this is definitely worth doing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. I just love hearing about all the results that you've been seeing. It's very inspirational, and it's very I hope it encourages people to just to pick up a pen or the phone, whatever they need to do to make a first start and get going. In a sec, I would love to, we'll obviously tell everybody how they can find your book and find out more about you. But just before we do that, and as a final point to touch on, I would love to hear more about how you're obviously a people person. And one of the things that you've been doing with your book, and one of the things that is obviously brilliant for Motivational Maps, and the promotion of the book itself, is building and utilising your community. And you did mention strengthens your tribe a little earlier on as well. And so do you have any thoughts you might want to share for people who are thinking about how they might want to promote their book, how to engage their community?
I do have a lot of thoughts about this. I'll give you one really powerful one that we did ourselves, which was really fabulous, and you'll like it. You need to bear in mind a basic distinction. People, basically, at some deep root level, we can buy one of two things. We can buy products, which actually, although they're fun to buy, so if you buy yourself a BMW or a Mercedes, or a brand new spanking house or whatever, or a bloody gold diamond ring or something, they give you a hit to start with, but very quickly you get bored by them, and the effect wears off. So what people really want is that on the one hand they've got products they can buy, but on the other, which is much more powerful, is what people really want are experiences. So if they're part of your tribe, they want experiences. What they don't want is corporate speak. What they don't want is business as usual. What they don't want is just the normal stuff you get from any other company just like the same.
Yeah.
So a book for a start-up is a unique thing because you hold the book, you read the book, actually going into somebody's mind by reading it. But alongside the book, to help your tribe, one thing you really, first thing you should do whenever you have a book out is you should have a book launch. Mm-hmm. And you should make your book launch a fabulous experience. We had an amazing experience. We booked the Radisson Blu in Leicester Square for a book launch in February of this year, and we invited a shed load of people. As it happened, while our book launch was going on, Ben Stiller and Jennifer Cruz were having their launch outside of Zoolander 2. So I had a red carpet outside with Ben Stiller standing there. Ben Stiller, as were some of my guests, thinking this is all part of my party. So we went up to the Radisson Blu in Leicester Square. We went to the penthouse suite, which is not on the 5th floor, it's on the 8th floor in the Radisson Blu. So a top 5-star hotel, on the top floor, overlooking London, with canapes and wine and restaurant, and something approaching 100 guests. And we launched the book. We had the commercial director from the Ordnance Survey who'd used the product, giving a talk for us, and we just had a quality event where we launched it. And on the night, we sold about 50 copies of the book, which we had available there. And we had a whole bunch of people who were like high-level people who were meeting each other. And we went out of our way to make this an experience. That when you come to mapping motivation events, you get this experience, which is really powerful. And of course, it led to sales. It led to people talking about us, and it led to a whole range of things. So where's the book launch? How are you going to have your book launch? Where's it going to be? How are we going to make it fun so that people talk about us and want to come to our next event, our next thing? And where's that going to be? We won't do it at Radisson Blu because we've done that. Something different. Do another formula next time. But how are we going to make these things really exciting? So loads of our tribe were there, of course. And of course, this, made them, oh, wow, we're part of this. We're motivational mappers. We know James. It's a morale boosting thing. Everyone goes away thinking, wow, the book's great, the party's great, the event was just marvellous, and we're just having a great time. We're so glad we're part of this system. Brilliant. So when you do what you do with your book, first thing to think about is, where's the book launch? Let's make an excuse for a party, and let's make it a real party, bearing in mind the commercial angle, which is who are we going to invite, and how are we going to get a combination of those we know, the knowns that we know, right? And then the unknowns we don't know, that we want to know a little bit better, who this really high-powered event is going to attract and bring into our orbit.
Very
I
strategic.
subsequent to that had a meeting with, I can't mention the name of the company, but it's one of the biggest companies in the world, top 20 companies in the world, food company, and I was with one of their top people. I got in because of somebody I know, so they talked to me, and I went to this meeting, and I went to their office in London, and I got up there, and I'd not met this person before, and I just walked in the room. And I said, just before we start, and I just, you know so-and-so and I know so-and-so. We just had that small talk. I said, but before we go, I've just got a little gift for you. Oh, for me, what? And I said, just have a look. And I wrapped it properly. And, and he opened it up. It was my book, signed with his name in it. And, I spent an hour and a half with him.
Wow.
And he just kept picking up the book and looking at it, and picking up the book and looking at it. And my conversation, I haven't got a client out of this yet, but I am getting closer and closer and closer. Our conversation is continuing. It's a long time to break into corporates anyway, but the book just had a mesmerising effect.
Wonderful. So it sounds like it's shortening that whole cycle and relationship building.
Exactly.
Yeah, fantastic.
But even if that didn't work on that one particular example, there'll be examples where they do work, and I have picked up work, and it's just that. This happens to be a particularly huge company that's very difficult to get into, very difficult, because they've already got their people lined up, they've already got their suppliers, they already know what they want, right? So they're trying to get into this. The book was just mesmeric. So get a book out. That's my advice. I've done it. I'm going to get another one out soon. And I'm going to carry on getting books out. I like getting books out. This is almost becoming a career for me. I'm going to get some books out.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much, James. On that note, could you please tell us where on earth everybody can find a copy of this wonderful book? Remind us of the title again, your website, and how they can continue this conversation with you after this interview.
Well, please do. I'm on LinkedIn. My name is James Sale, spelled as in a shop, spelled as in January Sale, S-A-L-E, okay? The book is called Mapping Motivation, subtitle Unlocking the Key to Employee Energy and Engagement. James Sale. The best place to get it, to be quite candid, is on amazon.co.uk. Just type in Mapping Motivation on Amazon. You will find a copy of my book. My website is called motivationalmaps.com. Find me there. Link with me on LinkedIn as a result of it. Just say the word Georgia on my mind. Exactly where this comes from. And I will immediately link with you. Even though you sound like a dodgy geezer, I will still link with you. Say Georgia on my mind. Georgia on my mind. So, LinkedIn, James Sale, www.motivationalmaps.com. And Mapping Motivation on Amazon, you will find it a cinch. And I strongly recommend. It's got 36 reviews, 34 of them are 5-star, 2 of them are 4-star. It's a 5-star book. Read the reviews. If you're interested in people, you'll just have to buy it because it's compelling reading.
Well, I'm already sold. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for taking all of this time, James.
That's brilliant.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Georgia. Okay?
I'll stop recording.
Sign off now then.
Oh, okay, well, hang on 2 seconds. I'll just stop the recording.